I'd like to call this meeting to order. Good morning and welcome to our third virtual speaker series of the year. We're calling this one Rising to the Challenge of Sea Level Rise. I am Romeo Arrieta. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Marin Realtors. This is our third in a set of 4 speaker series topics this year. We have a full agenda today and I look forward to getting to it. I have a couple of housekeeping notes that I'd like to share beforehand. Everybody's muted by default. I ask that if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A feature and we'll do our best to get to them throughout the meeting. I'd like to recognize our 2023 president, Sylvia Berry, and any of our board of directors and committee volunteers who are present on the webinar. Want to give the usual disclaimer: the views expressed by our guests are their own and not necessarily those of the Marin Realtors or any affiliated entity. Also, nothing should be taken as legal advice or be considered as tax or otherwise professional advice. As always, if you have any questions along those lines, ask your broker or manager. That being said, hope you find this informational, and also this event will be recorded. So I would like to pass it over to Sylvia.
Well, thank you so much, Romeo, for all the housekeeping and your staff for getting this series ready to go. I really appreciate that. And I also want to welcome everybody. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy day to attend SmartCoast California presentation. I know some of the people were watching from their office, so I appreciate the support of this important presentation. First, I do like to take a moment to thank our premier sponsor today for the support of Marin Realtors and of this event. I'd like to introduce our sponsor, Homa Rosali from Mutual Omaha, for a quick word. Homa, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Homa Rasuli, reverse mortgage specialist with Mutual of Omaha. Thank you, Ms. Sylvia and Romeo and all the staff to giving me this opportunity to be here today. I do reverse mortgages, and as all you know, I'm always available to answer any question you may have. And just wanted to go over a few things that the reverse mortgage can help your clients by using the reverse mortgage for refinancing. So that way it can alleviate stress on portfolio by eliminating principal interest payment, so they can replace that by the reverse mortgage. Another point of reverse mortgage is for HECM for purchase. It's a great opportunity for downsizing, upsizing. I'm always available to run numbers and tell you how much they qualify for. If you have any particular client, I'm a phone call away. And recently, I've been helping a lot of people going through divorces. So if you have senior clients that are going through the divorce, the reverse mortgage can really help them by getting a reverse mortgage on the primary resident to buy the other spouse, and the spouse that is leaving the house can buy a new house with the reverse mortgage and the proceed from the buyout. So these are the great opportunity. If you have any clients, just give me a call. And one code I got from, because we all are going through a lot of different situations this year. So we all had to change our tactic a little bit. And a quote from Thomas Edison, it says that, "I haven't failed. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Adversity and setbacks push us one step closer to a win." I wish all of you to be a winner. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for having me. Give me a call anytime. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Well, thank you so much, Homa, for your continuous support. So let's go on with our program. I want to say that I recently attended SmartCoast California Policy Summit, which brought a very impressive group of policymakers from various areas together to discuss legal, economic, and policy solutions in anticipation of sea level rising. And I was really impressed by the in-depth nature of the discussion and of the subject matter. So I thought, we know how marine realtors and our public at large are concerned about sea level rising and the coastal issues and the solutions to such. So I thought it's very important to bring the industry experts to come and present this to you in our speaker series. And I'm really excited to introduce our two esteemed guests from SmartCoast, California. We have co-founders Marta Brown, who is the CEO, and Krista Pleiser, is that how you spell that? She is the Government Affairs Director from the Santa Barbara Association of Realtors. Both of them are here today to introduce SmartCoast California, an organization focusing on coastal communities and planning for our future. SmartCoast California was established in 2019 to inform stakeholders about the importance of property rights and land use decisions affecting California's coastline. People from all over the world flock to live and recreate on our coast. So we need to make smart decisions on how to protect our coastal communities so those living here can continue to enjoy the use of their property, and the residents and visitors alike continue to have access to our beaches. SmartCoast California acknowledges a one-size-fits-all solution will not work, and it supports a multi-pronged approach for coastal adaptation, specifically tailored to our unique communities. So please help me welcome Marta and Krista. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, Sylvia. I appreciate that nice introduction. We have a PowerPoint presentation for you today. I am Marta Brown. I am the CEO of SmartCoast California, and Krista Pleiser is here with me. She and I co-founded this in 2019, a while ago, and we are two peas in a pod, locked in at the hip, whatever you want to say. She's the Government Affairs Director with Santa Barbara Association of Realtors. I was formerly with the Ventura County Coastal Association of Realtors. Next. This is our board of directors for 2023. As you can see, we have the ever famous Katie Beacock as one of our directors, and we so appreciate it. She was a director last year and she's our secretary this year, and we appreciate her insights. We try really hard to have directors from all areas of the state of California and coastal communities. This is also the first year that we've had a director that is not just a realtor or not from the realtor community, and we are expanding those opportunities to those that are involved in the coast, maybe live at the coast, work at the coast, but are not necessarily in the realtor community. It gives us a change in perspective and assists us with all aspects of coastal land management. Next. This is a short video about who we are. Sound is not on, Krista. It worked in practice, I'll tell everyone right now. No. Sorry, guys, we did practice this and it worked just fine with the practice team. There we go. Thank you.
My name is Joe. SmartCoast California really believes in protecting the coast.
Our passion is the coastline.
Everyone should be committed to protecting our iconic California coastal communities. That's SmartCoast.
My name is Joe Prion. I am the 2022 president of SmartCoast California. The mission of SmartCoast is to be a moderator between two different sides that want two different things in regards to vision for the coast.
Well, SmartCoast California, we look at the policies that are out in the different municipalities.
SmartCoast's objective is to provide themselves as a single place that is a reliable source of information for cities, counties, and the Coastal Commission.
We are seeking with active engagement with the local jurisdictions, the cities and the counties, and with the state regulatory agencies such as the California Coastal Commission to come up with smart, cutting-edge regulations and policies to deal with the crucial issue of sea level rise.
Sea level rise in and of itself is going to affect different areas and different communities in different ways.
I'm very encouraged by the rise of plans to create artificial reefs, which would cause sand to accumulate closer to shore. Very interesting things that are much more innovative than, okay, the water's getting close, everybody tear down their houses and move back.
We need to come up with regulations which deal with the much more modest levels of sea level rise, which was scientifically anticipated, in a manner that protects those communities, protects private property, but also protects the precious environment and the beaches, which at the end of the day is why we are all here in the first place.
It's really important to protect the legacy of people on the coastline.
With SmartCoast California, we help a lot of the homeowners with the different policy issues that they may have. It is a very valuable resource when looking at the crazy landscape that's called homeowner laws.
I think that it's appropriate for the people who are being affected by the decisions of the Coastal Commission should know what they are and how it's going to affect their futures before the decision becomes permanent.
Those folks that purchased properties, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 generations ago, and they want to hold that property and be able to pass it down from generation to generation. This is something that's going to be able to be modeled in other states. So what we do here now, preparing now for the state of California, we're creating a model for other states to be able to use this.
California's coastline is one of the most beautiful spaces in America.
It's California. There's not much in the way of this kind of a coast anyway.
We have one of the most populous states, the most populous state in America, which has 1,100 miles of coastline. At least half of it developed as some of the most iconic communities in the world.
To protect that is protecting what the legacy of California is. I would encourage you that if you have a desire to get involved, that you talk to one of us about it. We're going to be able to talk to our grandkids and our great grandkids about how we created this legacy of helping people to protect their property and work through the environmental issues that the state of California has right now.
So this is just a real brief recap. I hope you enjoyed the video about SmartCoast California. This is a brief recap of the things that we completed in 2022. We monitor the sea level rise planning activity that's going on up and down the state with all of the up and down the state with the municipalities, both cities and counties. We provided support materials on 41. We submitted 13 comment letters in 2022. We collaborated with local government on 4, and we had virtual sea level rise summits. We've had 2. Our second one was just in May of this year. We're a major stakeholder in the California Coastal Commission Sea Level Rise Neighborhood Scale Workshop with the Coastal Commission. And we had over 150 participants at each of our summits. So we're pretty excited about where we've come since 2019. We've come far and fast, and we're really happy about it. And we do have open communication now with the Coastal Commission staff. The new executive director, Kate Hucklebridge, and her staff, we have quarterly calls with them to discuss various plans and what's going forward. And we really are looking for resilient beaches and creating alternative approaches through a multi-pronged approach at the neighborhood scale. Next. We want to thank the Marin Association of Realtors for your bronze sponsorship at our policy summit in May. We really appreciate you being there and being a support, both with Katie being on the board and at our policy summit and understanding the importance of what it is we do. Krista?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to go over a couple of quick items for you, insofar as these are probably going to be issues that you are seeing and will be coming up, and especially this one that you see on the screen, the Casimir Homeowners Association versus the California Coastal Commission. What's really interesting about this case is that this is an HOA that is based in Half Moon Bay. And they went to the Coastal Commission saying, hey, we need a seawall in order to protect the coastal trail. We need it to be able to protect our homes. And we also need to protect it for a sewer line. And the Coastal Commission came back, and I'm sure you probably all know what the answer was. No. They said that you can only have a seawall to protect three out of the 15 or 10 to 15, I think, homes along the area, as well as the trail and so forth, because of the definition of existing. The Coastal Commission came forward and said, well, 3 of those places have been here according to our definition of existing, which is pre-1977. However, the homeowners association was like, yeah, we don't really know where you're coming up with this definition, so we're going to sue you. So they sued them, and there is a tentative ruling right now that does address this definition of existing. And as you can see, basically what the court is saying is, hey, Coastal Commission, no, existing does not mean pre-Coastal Act. And by the way, several years ago, you actually argued the exact opposite. That means that you, as the Coastal Commission, said, oh, actually existing is, this now forward as opposed to 1977 and back. So because of that, why are you changing your mind? What is this? You can't just do that with law, just all of a sudden one day change your mind on that. So this tentative ruling is actually very good for homeowners, for those who need to protect their homes, for those that have been still dealing with and trying to define what existing is within the coastal zone. Have a feeling that this is probably going to end up going forward on appeal. And so we still need to see if the tentative ruling becomes the actual ruling. So stay tuned, but this is one of those cases that is going to be very imperative on moving forward with property rights and basically being able to do anything along the coast. The other thing is that we did want to say that we do have a couple of Marin updates. As you know, the county published their draft safety element, LCPA. LCPA, for those that don't work in acronym world, is local coastal program amendments. And that was published back in December 20th, 22. SmartCoast, California, and I believe Marin County, your association actually did submit comments. The Board of Supervisors adopted it earlier this year and still awaiting the Coastal Commission certification of this plan. When that will happen, I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows what the Coastal Commission plans to do on certain things, but I do know that they are understaffed, and so everything has been backed up quite a bit on trying to get things moved along and get into the line to get moved up to the actual Coastal Commission. And Marta, did you want to take this one?
So I just wanted to add a little bit to your last statement. We did have a presentation from Jack Leapster on the Marin LCPA, and we have provided to Romeo and your association's staff the links to that video from our policy summit in May. So if you'd like to see that presentation, you're able to do so via the link, and we also have the slides available to you as an association sponsor. So go ahead and follow next. That'll be coming out in the email after the fact, I believe. Also, we're very excited that we have Isaac Perlman here, who is working on the Stinson Adaptation and Resilience Collaboration, the ARC. which is in progress through 2025, and it's creating adaptations pathways for Stinson Beach specifically. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Isaac Perlman. He is a senior planner with the Marin County Community Development Agency and has previously worked with FEMA, the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, the Peace Corps, and was recently researching sea level rise and flood risk in Panama as a Fulbright scholar. Isaac was born in Marin County and has a lot of family roots here. So I'm very, very pleased, and I thank you, Isaac, for being here with us today, and the floor is all yours.
Yay, thanks, Marta. And thank you, SmartCoast, for the presentation. Yeah, as Marta mentioned, so I'm a senior planner with the Community Development Agency in Marin County, and I am part of the long-range planning team, and my focus is mostly on helping the Marin communities prepare and adapt for climate change, including sea level rise. So I'm going to present to you a little bit about the project that I've been working on. Let me just load up the slides. Let's see. Oops. Nope. All right. Can you all see this okay? Are you seeing the full screen or are you seeing the notes version?
In the notes, you might go to the presentation mode.
Yeah. Is that better?
You will still see the next slide.
Oh,
You
still
need the
see
other
that?
screen.
Let's see. All right, let's try that again. Oh, is it? Okay. So does anyone know? So I thought this one went to full screen, but you're saying you see the next slide?
Right. So
Okay.
if you can aim it to your other screen.
Aim it to my other screen.
Do you have a dual screen system?
No, I have just one.
So then what you would want to do, you go into presentation mode first, and then you do the screen share and you select the presentation screen.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's working?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry about that for the technical difficulties. Okay, so as I said, I assume a lot of people here are familiar with Stinson Beach, but for those who may not know, it is a beautiful coastal community here in Marin County on the West Coast. And I am going to be talking a little bit about our adaptation planning process for this beautiful place that, as you can see from the photo, has a lot of water surrounding it. Let's see. Okay, so just before I get into the project itself, just so you all know who is on this project, I'm the project manager from, like I said, Marin County CDA. Jack Liebster, who was mentioned earlier, was the planning manager. He recently retired, so we wish him well in his retirement. Leslie Lako is actually going to be the planning manager that's going to take over for him. And for this project, we actually have, we're lucky to have a big group of consultant support. So we have a couple of community engagement specialists in Katie and Marie. James Jackson is our lead engineer for this project, and he's with Environmental Science and Associates. And then we have a lot of sub-consultants with some expertise around wastewater and civil engineering, economics, environmental impacts, which is Point Blue. Brad Damitz is our regulatory specialist. And then Giuliano put together the movie, which I'm going to play in a little bit. Okay, so a little bit of background about this, what we're calling the Stinson Beach ARC. The ARC is Adaptation and Resilience Collaboration. So basically what it is, it's a grant-funded 2-year planning process to help Stinson stakeholders address sea level rise. Emphasis on the non-regulatory, I think there was a little bit of update around the LCP earlier, and that's a very important process, but that is one that's separate from this project. So some of the goals of this project, we're going to be updating the previous sea level rise assessment that was done out in Stinson in 2016, and I'll talk more about that. The second phase of the project is our technical consultant team is going to be working on analyzing what adaptation measures are possible out in Stinson, and then how they could make sense as part of adaptation pathways. And then the final product of this planning process is basically an adaptation plan or roadmap, which will identify next steps, as well as implementation and monitoring that the community can do moving forward. Okay, so why is Stinson ARC needed? Well, for those who are familiar with Stinson, I'm sure it's not a surprise to them. And you may have heard or seen in the news that Stinson Beach is already at risk from flooding today. Just in the past winter alone, in early January, we had a strong winter storm that produced 20-foot waves that damaged anywhere from a dozen to a couple dozen homes out in Stinson Beach. There's already high tide flooding that's occurring on the backside of Stinson on the lagoon side. And that's that middle photo that's just a high tide. That's not from a storm or anything like that. East Coop Creek, which is an important creek that flows through the community, has flooded about 3 times in the last 8 years, including last winter. So one of the things that our report shows that I'm going to talk about is if we don't do anything, these impacts that Stinson is already experiencing are going to get worse with sea level rise. And when I say sea level rise, I'm basically talking about flooding, right? So flooding of homes and properties, which, as I mentioned, is occurring at a minor level today, but if we don't do anything, it's projected to get much worse. And we're talking about damage to infrastructure like roads and utilities. So even people whose homes may not necessarily be impacted or in the flood zone, we're trying to look at roads and utilities that people rely on. So the impacts could be much more than just the direct flood impacts. And we're talking about loss of beach and marsh habitat, which for those of you who do know Stinson, you all know that's one of the biggest appeals of this beautiful area. So we, like any public agency, we have to do a public process as part of this. And Marin County, Stinson Beach, like many areas, has a lot of stakeholders that we need to talk to. So obviously, Stinson Beach residents and homeowners are a key one. The land and critical infrastructure managers are those out in Stinson who are managing important pieces of land and infrastructure. For example, the Stinson Beach County Water District, the National Park Service, which manages quite a stretch of the beach, state parks, the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, all of those, the Stinson Beach Fire Protection District. So those are some of those critical managers. And then regulatory agencies and technical experts are the ones who are going to help us understand what's possible out in Stinson in terms of adaptation. And beach visitors. So one of the early products of this Stinson ARC process was we did a cell phone study to try and determine how many people are using Stinson Beach. And we ended up finding out Stinson Beach got about 3 million visitors over 5 years. So anywhere from kind of 600 to 750,000 visitors a year. So we want to acknowledge, and I think SmartCoast said this earlier, right? It's about the people who visit the coast and the beach and what draws them there. Local businesses are also obviously a key stakeholder. And then our other stakeholders also include local environmental nonprofits. All right, so the process and schedule for this project, like I mentioned, we first wanted to update the 2016 study that was done out in Stinson. That was a good study. It didn't focus on Stinson. It did the entire West Marin, all the communities in West Marin. And for the other communities like Inverness, Bolinas, Muir Beach, if you're interested in those communities, please reach out. I'll give my contact info and I can direct you to that. But for us, we wanted to kind of update some of that data, use the best available data and most recent data. And I'll talk a little bit more about the results from that. As I mentioned, our phase 2 that we're in now is the technical team is looking to identify and understand what's possible out in Stinson Beach. We'll be bringing a draft to our stakeholders to get their feedback. And then we're hoping to do a final completion of that study or roadmap by next year. Okay, so real quick, our vulnerability assessment update. As I mentioned, we wanted to update that previous study. We came out with the updated report on April of this year, and all these reports that I'm mentioning are on our website. I'll drop the website link into the chat box so you all can take a look. But what this report does is basically use sea level rise scenarios to try and understand and project what things could look like in Stinson if we don't take any adaptation measures. We identify the critical community assets and resources and look at not just sea level rise, but coastal erosion, groundwater, 100-year storm, as well, to try and understand the intersection of those and how sea level rise could make some of those hazards worse if we don't take action. So these are the sea level rise projections that we used for our study. As I mentioned earlier, this is a grant-funded process. The grant is from the state of California, so we are required to use state of California's sea level rise scenarios, their recommended scenarios. So those are the ones given here. And then the next stage was to do kind of a Stinson Beach asset inventory. And I'm not sure if hopefully y'all can see my cursor, but basically this is kind of in GIS, we basically mapped all of the little brown dots, if you can see them. Those are building footprints, both homes and businesses. We also looked at all the roads. You can see in kind of the tan lines. The fire protection district has 2 fire stations, the one here, the main one here. We looked at the lifeguard tower, which is another critical community response asset, beach restrooms that serve beach visitors, parking lots, coastal access points, all of the main points in Stinson that, like I said, are kind of critical to the community. And then we looked at the hazards. So like I mentioned, we looked at those 3 sea level rise scenarios. We looked at a coastal 100-year storm, which includes coastal storm wave runout. We also looked at a 100-year storm from East Coop Creek, as well as from the backside of Stinson Bolinas, which would produce higher water levels, but not necessarily the strong waves that Stinson experiences from the outer coast, right? And as I mentioned, we used updated coastal erosion projections and looked at groundwater to also understand how groundwater can impact utilities like septic systems, which is what the homes on Stinson Beach are on. Okay, so hopefully this works. I'm going to do a quick video, and as mentioned earlier, it worked in practice, so hopefully it'll work this time. One sec. Let's see. Okay. Okay, and anyone just give a shout out if the sound's not working, because I can't see anyone.
We can hear it.
Great, thank you for confirming.
Welcome to Stinson Beach. This small community of about 500 people is located north of San Francisco in Marin County, just across the Golden Gate Bridge. Its broad sandy beach is one of the most popular in Northern California, attracting 750,000 visitors per year to swim, surf, and enjoy the coastal climate. Nestled between the Pacific Ocean and Bolinas Lagoon, the Stinson Beach area was used by the Coast Miwok people for over 10,000 years, who built boats and homes from willows and tule reeds. After European colonization, Stinson's sandy peninsula developed from tent camps to permanent beach houses over the last 150 years. If no action is taken, the community will remain vulnerable to future flooding from sea level rise. This is a 3D model of Stinson Beach. Here you can see the creek and lagoon, the beach houses, as well as Highway 1 and the Calle de Arroyo access road. Let's take a look at how sea level rise could impact Stinson. With just 1.6 feet of sea level rise, Stinson streets and homes are at risk from lagoon-side flooding. With no action, portions of these important access roads will permanently flood with even just a foot or two of sea level rise. Along with vulnerable underground utilities like water and septic, this impacts all residents, regardless of their home elevation. At 3.3 feet of sea level rise, some of these critically important wetlands are now permanently covered by water. On the ocean side, rising waters are increasing shoreline erosion and beach loss. After 6.6 feet of sea level rise, flooding impacts nearly the entire Stinson Beach Peninsula, from the lagoon to the ocean. A previous study by Marin County showed that several hundred properties are at risk of flooding in the next few decades. Let's go to a bird's eye view to understand what this means. Here's Eastcoot Creek. Normally, it wends its way quietly into Bolinas Lagoon. But when there is heavy rain in the steep upper watershed, that water runs downhill to the coast and the creek channel gets overwhelmed. This has happened several times in the past decade. For example, the New Year's Eve storm of 2005 caused Eastcoot Creek to overflow and flood several dozen homes. Here's the area that a 100-year flood would cover today. This kind of flood has a 1% chance of happening every year, or a 26% chance during a 30-year mortgage. Even without sea level rise, this extreme storm scenario would flood an estimated 50 homes, in addition to affecting local restaurants and public access to beach parking. With climate change, the odds of simultaneous flooding from both the lagoon and Eastcoot Creek increases. Here is Bolinas Lagoon, a cherished nature preserve that is an important bird sanctuary on the Pacific Flyway, with rare wetland habitat home to a number of endangered and sensitive species. However, as sea level rises, the rich wetland ecosystem changes to mudflats and eventually open water. With nowhere to go, the plants and animals that rely on the wetland are squeezed out. Additionally, the natural flood protection that the wetland provides for nearby homes is lost, resulting in more flooding in the community. On a sunny weekend day, the beach is packed with visitors. However, due to sea level rise and coastal erosion, Stinson's beach is gradually lost to the rising ocean. Over time, this means less beach area and access for visitors, lower tourism revenue, and without any action, the decline of one of Marin County's most beloved beaches. So what can we do to protect Stinson Beach from these future scenarios? Stinson partners are already carrying out short and midterm solutions and studies to decrease flood risk and buy the community more time. From utility upgrades to exploring protective dune and living levee feasibility, the community is starting to plan for higher water levels. Working together, we can make Stinson resilient to future flooding. Marin County is now embarking on a project to explore the feasibility of a range of long-term adaptation strategies for Stinson Beach. A team of scientists, engineers, and economists will work with local partners and stakeholders to evaluate how a series of adaptation options can reduce flood impacts over time as part of adaptation pathways. This planning effort is known as the Stinson Adaptation and Resilience Collaboration, and you're invited to join us. Stay tuned for Part 2, Exploring Stinson Beach Adaptation Possibilities.
All right. Let me go quickly back to my presentation. see.
You need to put it in presentation mode before you share.
Is that the, oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's what's going on. Let's see. Oh, I think, oh, I have that one. Let's see. Okay, can you all see that okay?
We're still seeing your next
The
slide.
next slide. Oh, I do not know how to get rid of that. Okay, well, if you don't mind, I'll just move this along because I know we got, I want to give some time for Q&A, but hopefully you enjoyed the video. This is just, this table is from our report. These are the kind of, this is a numbers-based look at what the video just showed. So kind of, as I mentioned, over a couple hundred homes that are at risk from a 100-year coastal storm today. Similar, at least 100 homes from East Coot Creek from a 100-year flood there. Beaches and dunes, as the video mentioned, are going to get squeezed out if we don't do anything to counteract the effects of sea level rise, as well as the marshes. Shoreline highway and some of those key access roads are, as I mentioned, already at flooding a little bit today and experiencing tidal flooding and storm flooding. All of these impacts just get worse with increased sea level rise if we don't do anything. So what can we do? There are lots of adaptation strategies that communities up and down California and throughout United States are doing to respond to flooding. And I should be clear, this list of options aren't specific ones that we're saying we're going to implement in Stinson. These are just examples of adaptation strategies that exist. But there's a wide range of options, from elevating homes to shoreline armoring, pump stations, doing what SmartCoast was talking about, doing nature-based solutions like restoring beaches and dunes, improving septic systems, elevating roads, upgrading utility lines. So as I mentioned earlier, that's what our technical team is doing right now to see which of these strategies from this list and a much bigger list are actually appropriate and feasible for Stinson. So just to kind of quickly jump through this, after we've kind of developed a draft list of adaptation measures and have gone to stakeholders to get feedback, then we'll be looking at developing adaptation pathways, or how specific measures can be put together in sequence as part of a pathway. And that would include the measures themselves, potential triggers that respond to the projected conditions that are in our vulnerability assessment report. As I mentioned, drawing from a range of potential actions and that are specific to the resource that we're looking at. So that once we have those pathways, they'll include, as I mentioned, sequencing or steps, what timing could look like, as well as, very importantly, identification of what potential funding sources are available. And as I mentioned, our final report or roadmap will have next steps for implementation and how to monitor or adjust and adapt to future conditions. So I already put up the schedule, so I don't think I need to go through it again. But as I mentioned, we're in phase 2 right now. We'll hopefully have our draft report in 2024. All of these, I keep saying draft because it has to be with a significant stakeholder engagement process. Well, we'll be getting people's feedbacks and what they think about these options, and then having the completion hopefully around mid or the end of 2024. So our next steps, as I mentioned, we're doing continuous stakeholder engagement. I've given this presentation in the Stinson community. We have a version of it online with our consultants that anyone can check out. It's on our website. We are doing a pop-up later this month to engage beach visitors. As Katie knows, I've been going out to Stinson and doing kind of office hours about once every month or two, just to chat with homeowners and understand and hear their concerns. And then, as I mentioned, going forward, we'll come back to stakeholders with a draft of our measures. And as we have a draft, as we draft up our adaptation pathways before the final. Okay, that's all I got. My project email is there. Feel free to reach out at any time if you're in Marin and interested in this project, or as I said, if you're in West Marin and interested in some of the other areas like Inverness, Tomales Bay, Bolinas, and I can help direct you towards any resources. I will drop the link to our website in the chat, so y'all can sign up and follow when we kind of make any announcements or have any project updates. You'll get an automatic email, and that's it. Thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you, Isaac. We had a question that came in, and I just wanted to ask on behalf of one of our members that you showed the video about Stinson Beach. Our members can share that with clients. I assume that's publicly available on the county website.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I was getting our website link. I'm going to drop it in the chat right now. So you all can, the website or the video is linked there. Just a caveat, if you're sharing it, please make sure to cite Marin County and Virtual Planet, because Virtual Planet is the amazing consultant that we worked with to come up with that video.
Okay. I'm monitoring the chat. And there's one more question in the chat. And then after that, I'm going to turn it over to our president, Sylvia, to sort of handle the questions that have come through the Q&A. So thank you so much for posting that link in the chat. We have a question from another member. Are you working with Belvedere or Tiburon?
Oh, good question. No, I'm not. Those are distinct jurisdictions from Marin County. I believe I can, if someone's interested in that area, I can look up the contact for them, because I believe Belvedere and Tiburon do have a project out there, and there is a planner working with them on sea level rise. But yeah, that's since I'm Marin County, as I mentioned, so Stinson Beach is unincorporated, right? So that is under Marin County's jurisdiction.
Okay. Friendly reminder, if you have any other questions, that was a great time to put those in the Q&A feature, and I'm going to turn it over to Sylvia to moderate the Q&As.
Well, thank you, Romeo. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Isaac and Marta, and of course, Krista. I have a couple of questions in QA. The first one is from Anna Frost. I think any one of you can answer this. How much do you consider retreat in the sea rise and the flood scenarios?
Yeah, it's one of the options we're looking at. As I like to say, when I talk with people and stakeholders in Stinson and Marin, we're looking at everything from coastal armoring to managed retreat. So I wouldn't say we consider it any more than any other option, but it's definitely something we want to look at as a possible strategy. Mm-hmm. And so I should say, and sorry, so just to follow up on that. So I also want to make it clear, when we talk about adaptation strategies, we're talking about homes are obviously very important, but when we talk about elevating, retreating, we're also talking about roads and utilities and other things like that too. So just to be clear.
Mm-hmm. So thank you so much. And I don't know if Marta or Krista has any input on that from other areas.
We definitely recommend a wide range of solutions in all areas, and really looking at what's there, what needs to happen, and it's not one size fits all. It's not just managed retreat. And keeping neighborhoods and communities together is very important if at all possible. So we definitely agree with natural solutions. Hard armoring is sort of the last thing that we recommend, but in some cases, that's exactly what needs to happen. So we would go along with what Isaac just said for sure, Sylvia. Thank you.
Great, thanks. The next question is from Chris Becker. He said, this is very helpful to understand who regulates the coast. Is there any entity that regulates the bayside of Marin?
Yes. Well, I think, again, it also depends on what area, right? So City of San Rafael, for example, manages their part of the shoreline because it's incorporated. So Marin County does not have jurisdiction. But also any development that occurs along the shoreline, the Bayside is it's the San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission. So they're kind of the coastal commission equivalent for the Bayside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we also have Helmington area there too.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is Thomas. Have you studied what? The question keep on moving because more questions coming. Have you studied what Amsterdam has done over the last few hundred years? Amsterdam.
What? Sorry, Amsterdam?
Amsterdam.
Oh, Amsterdam. Yeah. I have seen some high-level presentations about Amsterdam and how they, have used a lot of kind of innovative flood strategies in terms of living with water. As maybe the person who asked the question knows, a lot of that country is actually below sea level. And so they have a very complicated system of dikes and levees and flood pumps and even open space areas that double as flood kind of detention basins. So I've looked at it a little bit, definitely.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack Wilkerson has a question about where does all the water to raise the sea level? Where's all the water to raise the sea level to 1.6 feet? Where does the water come from, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad they asked that. So the primary sources of sea level rise are two things. One, I think that a lot of people understand, right, are glaciers and ice melt. Right. So because our planet is warming, the massive glaciers in Antarctica, Greenland, the Arctic, those that are on top of land are starting to melt, and those are raising oceans. The second part, which I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand or talk about, is the thermal expansion of the ocean. So it's actually, again, because our climate is warming, it's the way it's kind of just physics. If you ever had a class or remember way back in high school, if you heat up a liquid, it expands. And that's what we're doing with our oceans.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if anybody else has any more questions? That's all we have right now. Oh, good. Okay, well, thank you so much for that, the presentation and the Q&A answer to that. But I really want to come back and introduce talk a little bit about Katie Beacup, our own. The reason why I actually attended the SmartCoast California is really thanks to Katie Beacup. I served from Marine Realtors Board of Directors and Government Affairs Committees for quite a few years, and I have always noticed how passionate Katie has been, about the coastal issues, and she's always there. She's been watching that for many years. So thank you so much, Katie, for introducing this topic to us. So Katie, she is a lifelong Marine resident and advocate for realtors and homeowners. She is the owner of Seacliff Realty in Stinson Beach since 1973. Her long career of volunteer advocacy includes service as Marine Association Realtors President in 2009. She has served on the CAR Board of Directors for many years and currently serves on the Board of Directors for SmartCoast California. So Katie, you want to talk a little bit about your involvement? Well,
most of all, thank you, Sylvia, for putting this together. I was thrilled when you and next year's President Joe Burns came down to our summit in May, and really it was heartwarming to see your interest and your knowledge being expanded, because it's been hard to get people to look at this issue for the last 30 years. Isaac, your presentation is really spot on. That's a great video, and we're so glad to have you. This is a joint project that involves the public and the governmental agencies, and that's why SmartCoast exists. SmartCoast has been a dream of many of us for many years, to be able to pull people together to work with the Coastal Commission, amongst other entities, to try and solve this very real issue. And it's a delight to see the next person coming along the lines. We've had a long relationship with Jack, and now to see Isaac, my eyes are really bright and twinkly, because your presentation was great, and your knowledge and your past experience is wonderful. And SmartCoast, I have to say, Marta and Krista are amazing people, and SmartCoast has been such an important part of putting together the information for today's meeting. So I hope you'll all go on SmartCoast California's website, smartcoastca.org. Romeo's put it in. And then also I wanted to just give a quick plug. Get on the County of Marin's website and find all the different areas that interest you, because you don't just sign up for one thing to do with coastal issues. There's probably about 15 or 20, I think, that I get updates. But once you're on the list, you find out everything that's going on, and it's just really quite wonderful. So again, smartcoast.org. Poor Marta put it in here, so just pay attention to it. My mouth is what it is. So thank you, Isaac. Thank you all.
Well, thank you again. So Marta, Krista, you have anything to add?
We just very much appreciate the opportunity to be here and to work with Marin County Association of Realtors, and Romeo and Katie being on our board is just a pleasure. And I know she brings information back to you all on a regular basis. We're here for you. Just let us know if we can help in any way. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so well, I guess I will close this meeting, but I do have a few announcements to make for the association. If you like to have any topic covered, please do let Romeo or myself know, so we can add to our speaker series. And also, we are continuing to collect for Homeward Bound our charity cost for the year, and our goal is raise $25,000 by December 31st, so we can have one of the veteran housing in the room named for Marin Realtors, which is something that I think is really great for our association, because we care about home ownership, and being able to house all the veterans certainly is high on the priority. So right now we raise about $11,000. We have 5 months to go. Please do go to the website and donate to Homeward Bound and let other people know. And our third general membership in-person meeting is with the Popular CR Chief Economist, Jordan Levine, and seeing how everything's going on the market right now. I'm sure everybody wants to hear his presentation. The presentation will be on Tuesday, September 12th at 9:30 a.m. So please bring your questions, and you can also register, which is in the rundown. And our Reboot YPN network, Young Professional Network, will meet at Pond Farm Brewing in San Rafael on Thursday, September 14th at 4 p.m. So Ben Faber, thank you, and Mark Machado, thank you for helping us bring YPM back to life. And that is for young professionals and young at heart professionals. So everybody this attending right now can come, are welcome to come. And then of course we have to talk about Marin County Disclosure and Disclaimer Advisory, which we're updating, we haven't updated since June 2021. We're close to finish up, but if you have any update you think is important with the things that happened during the last 2 years, please do email me and ask your office, your agent to let you know as well. So please do email me your final update to it. And last but not least, actually one of our most important events this year is our 100-year centennial celebration. Thank you, Katie, for chairing that event. That will be October 19th. You are all invited. So please watch for the rundown to register. Again, thank you for sponsor Homa. Really appreciate your support. And of course, all our presenters. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming
Thanks,
back to
Sylvia.
Romeo.
Thank you, everybody. Perfect. And we will send the video out as soon as we can. Let us know if you have any questions. Definitely sign up for those links. Definitely follow what the county's doing on sea level. We'd love to see you at the future Marin Realtors events. And we'll just go ahead and sign off right here. Thank you so much. Have a great day.